You are listening to Light Up Your Worth with Breakthrough Catalyst Coach Debbie McAllister, as we talk about money consciousness, mindset, and raising our vibrations. She believes that when you own your own worth, the light shines through you with abundance. Each week, she will provide resources to guide you into greater abundance and more freedom while disconnecting from the scarcity mindset. This podcast is here to provide engaging and heart-centered conversations that offer so much worth, they'll motivate you and light up your worth.
Welcome back. Have you ever felt trapped between your spiritual self and your business drive? Curious about how to infuse energy into your business messaging? Let's learn about the magic of intuitive hits in creating a business with ease with my guest, Joanna Ingram. She's a former advertising agency turned brand messaging advocate and business coach who takes us through the journey of blending these two worlds. She provides details on the power of being authentic in crafting a message that resonates with ourselves and our clients. I'm so excited to have you here and jumping into this episode. I had so much fun, and you're going to get a lot out of our discussion. So let's dive in. Hello. This is Debbie McAllister and Light Up Your Worth. My guest today is Joanna Ingram, and she's a former advertising agency director turned brand messaging advocate and business coach based out of London. She's the host of a leading podcast, Goals with Soul, and a very busy mom with 3 spiritual girls. Her podcast is Goals with Soul, and she blends revenue generation with energetics, marketing strategy with pranic healing, and ambitious business goals with our soul's desires. She helps visionary coaches find their truth, embrace their unique brilliance, and clarify their authentic messaging so that they can sign soul clients, raise their prices, and stand out from the crowd in their industry. Her mission is to champion courageous women to break the mold with their individuality and express their uniqueness in business. Joanna's here to guide and inspire you to join the dots of your unique brilliance so you can be paid for being authentically you. Wow, what an amazing mission that you have, Joanna. Welcome.
Thanks, Debbie.
Joanna, I am so excited that you're here to be able to share, like so many of our listeners who are coming from this energetic place with some type of healing modality, spirituality, and they are building a business. How we're able to show up as our whole authentic self, not just being business focused. That's one of the things that I absolutely love about your podcast and the work that you're doing. I would be honored if you would share with me how you began that move from being an agency director into merging it all into your own.
It certainly didn't come together without real deep reflection and a certain amount of time. I worked in advertising agencies for the best part of 20 years. And it was only at the start of the pandemic when I lost my job, like many people in the advertising industry did, that I realized that this was my opportunity to do something that was really on my heart. And I'd wanted to coach for a long time. And this was the universe giving me this sign. I was so excited. But at that point of saying, what kind of coaching am I going to do? I thought, I'm going to bring the best of my experience from 20 years of marketing, and I'm going to start helping clients who were finding accountability hard, productivity, having strategic ways of thinking. And I started working with entrepreneurs in that way, which was very gratifying because I was often running and I was working with clients. But very soon into my business, I burned out really badly. About 6 months in, I was trying to do all the things, which anybody listening will know what I'm talking about, but taking it to the extreme, I put myself under so much pressure to achieve And 6 months in, having launched my podcast and 3 programs and a membership, and I was just on my knees, really spiritually, energetically. I just didn't know what to do next. And it was that dark night of the soul moment that saw me really reviewing this masculine energy that I'd been bringing to my business, this over pushing, over efforting, over proving, and realizing that what I really wanted was much more flow, feminine energy, that divine balance. I realized that I was already looking at that part of my life, but not bringing it into my work. I'd qualified as a pranic healer. I was doing a lot of spiritual reading and spiritual growth, and realized that the only way I was going to be truly happy and fulfilled would be to bring those 2 parts of myself together, to bring the driven business side with the passionate spiritual side and make that my business going forward. I'd experienced some real telltale signs that really I needed to bring my authenticity and my true message through into my business, because even though I was working with clients and they were really beautiful human beings, we weren't energetically aligned, in that they as clients would leave me feeling very energetically depleted. A lot of coaches get this, where you come off a call and you're like, whoa, that was hard work. I want to get the results. I'm like pulling them along in a way. There's a resistance, a reluctance. They're not all in. I realized that I wanted to work with clients who were all in for their own growth and their own results. A lot of that time, I walked around the forest barefoot and called in insights and intuition, and realized that I needed to work with those people who were best aligned energetically to work with me. When I started changing my messaging and changing my intention behind it, I started calling those people in, and my business really shifted at that point. That blending of who you really are, the spiritual, the action taker, bring it all into your business. In my experience, and oftentimes with the clients I work with, it's an absolute game changer.
Wow. That's so much in a journey of the be able to share. I think all this, understand that feeling of feeling aligned with who you're working with. Do you feel like this different type of intuitive connection when somebody is showing up for themselves? And what does that look like for you?
When you're really aligned with the clients that you want to work with, the energy on those calls is really uplifting. I used to say that I could only manage about 3 clients a week because I was energetically depleted. But when you're working with clients who are energizing, you come off the call and you're like, oh, what can I do now? You're getting all these ideas about your business. You want to go live. You want to do those things that you've got that resistance to normally. And you're like, oh, this thing that we just shared has inspired me. Not just I've inspired my client and they've gone off buzzing and they can't wait to do their assignments or do the work and move themselves forward. You come off feeling equally vibrant. This is the kind of uplifting energy that we get that when we call in those clients who are best meant to work with us. It also works for calling in new clients, because when you're working at that vibration and in that energy, you tend to put yourself out there, show up for your business more. Messaging is, yes, what you say, but messaging is also saying it, being in those spaces, showing up with that kind of thought leader energy that people will be drawn to, and they're going to want to know more about you. They're going to want to engage. And ideally, they're going to come through those conversations and understand that you're the right person to help them get the outcome and results that they need in their lives and businesses.
I think that's something that we can all relate to. The positive spiral of the energy. I think we've all had those experiences with working with somebody where you walk away and you're like, okay, I can't keep up. The ideas are going, you're writing them down, you're going live, you can't wait. You start diving into other things. I just had that moment last night after with somebody.
Yeah, very cool.
Oh, I want more of this.
Want to do more.
Yeah, you want more of this. That's a really good example too. I think when you mentioned that your clients before were really good people, just not being energetically aligned, and how it can impact how it feels more like a task. that draining energy. I think it's been something that I've been trying to help people like articulate what the difference of what that feels like, because people start something and they want to bring in the revenue and they're almost afraid to make that shift like you did. How did you overcome those fears that we know all come up for all of us as we're making that shift to trust the universe, that it will bring those who are in line with you?
This is a great question because I guess when I described how I did that, I glanced over how really difficult breaking through my own mindset was in order to show up as the person that I was on the inside. The way I see it, it's a mixture of clarity and courage. The first aspect is getting that extreme clarity about what you're really meant for. I have a process I call brand epics. So epics piece is an anagram, and it stands for experience, pain, interest, character, and skills. I realized through my own experience and then deploying this with a variety of different clients afterwards, I realized that when you bring all of these pieces together, you get this intense clarity about what parts of you should be in your business if you want a joyful and sustainable business that attracts soul-aligned clients. The clarity brings the courage, because oftentimes when we don't show up in whatever place, and if you're listening to this right now, I'm going to ask you, what place is it that you know you're not showing up, that you're supposed to be showing up because it's on your heart? For a lot of us, it's creating reels or going live or doing these things that feel a little more complicated or difficult, or we have to show up with less training wheels in these spaces. We get this feeling that I don't want to do it. However, when you're really clear about what your message is, that courage starts ramping up, because finally you know what you're meant to say, you know what your mission is, you know how to really call to those clients and talk about their desires and their pain points in a way that is really authentic, but is really going to resonate with them and increase that engagement. For me, like right at the beginning, when I first started to dial in this spiritual message and talk about the universe, I felt crippled by this idea of fear of judgment, because I'd come out of 20 years working in corporate for advertising agencies. My belief was that the people in that world would not accept what I had to say about the universe. These were not conversations that were taking part, at least in my career, in the agency. I felt that it would sound weird, all the things. Here's the thing. It was nothing to do with those people, whoever those people were that I imagined in my mind, but it was everything to do with me. It was like jumping off without a safety net and saying, this is what I'm doing. When I did, and it took some really good friends within the industry to hold my hand for those, 20 minutes of courage to get something written, press go, put it out on LinkedIn, change my profile, put it out on Facebook to all my friends, not limiting who's going to see it, and just talk about what meant the most to me and what kind of work I was meant for and would now be doing. The outpouring of support was so unexpected. It's not to do with the outpouring of support, it's to do with realizing your truth and authenticity. If you want a business that is going to be joyful and sustainable and create the revenue and work with people that inspire you, you have to be authentically you. I've worked with coaches recently who are making 6 figures plus and are starting to burn out, starting to question what it is they're doing, because there's large parts of themselves, and oftentimes that's this energetic spiritual part, that they're hiding. In our industry, we're always leveling up. It's one of the reasons I love the industry so much, is that we're always growing because there's these new ideas and we're meeting new people and we're doing the inner work, whether that's mindset or energetic. We're constantly doing this inner work. And the thing is, as we change, our businesses need to evolve and change with us. That's the kind of work that I'm delighted to be doing at the moment, is helping people dial that in and helping them get the courage to put it out there and see those ripples of rewards, of the impact they make and the income that they make.
I can understand that fear of the judgment. Changing your LinkedIn, which is a huge social business platform that I use extensively in my career as well over the last 20 plus years. I think it's a very common fear that we have. You pointing out that it really is an internal barrier for ourselves. You mentioned that you had the support of some friends in the industry who you were able to be yourself. What other type of support did you have to help you get to that level, to continually up level as you started to attract people? You're going to have, as you up level, you're going to have different fears come up.
That's a great question because we all need support. I think that anybody that's trying to go it alone in this industry will really struggle and not have the fun and the joy that this industry can bring when, things are really in flow. You're making the connections and the collaborations. For me, that kind of support was in the form, firstly, of some really great coaches. I've worked with a spiritual coach. I've worked with business coaches. I'm consistently investing in myself, both in the strategic side and the energetic side. Really important. I work in a number of collaborations with other women in accountability pods, although it's less about accountability and more about inspiration, support, and having those people there to show you and guide you to your next level. That idea in Think and Grow Rich, I think it's in that book, the idea that you surround yourself with those people that you most want to be like next, getting yourself into the room in masterminds with people who are already at that next level and other people at your level who are pushing you because everybody wants to see each other succeed. That support was phenomenal. I would also say the support of my family. Making big changes and being authentically yourself is something that sees you go through life changes as well. I've leveled up tremendously in so many aspects of my life. And fortunately for me, my husband has been super inspired and done a lot of similar work to me as a result. We're constantly doing spiritual work together, and we've been away on training weekends and attended out there stuff, which as a couple is meaning that our relationship's getting closer because we're both enjoying this energetic work. He's also trained as a pranic healer. In fact, he's got more advanced level than me now. He's absolutely loves it. It's a great opportunity to grow and get all those different kinds of support.
I love that. You did reference the Think and Get Rich, which is, for the listeners who aren't familiar, it's a book that was over 100 years old. When it was written, it was somebody who wasn't all that well known got picked out by one of these millionaires back 100 years ago, and he wanted him to go study the behavior of those who were very wealthy. In that process, this book was birthed. That's how the whole term mastermind was created, of people coming together to share ideas and to do what you're saying, lift each other up. There's some accountability, but the knowledge sharing. Tony Robbins talks about that when he was first started. He talked about when he got invited to this jet, one of the richest men in the world were on this. He started talking to him, sharing wealth tips. I don't want to say the word networking, but it puts you in a community where you're sharing your expertise with somebody else. And he obviously brought an expertise of motivating people.
Absolutely. I love the group format. I've run a group program. I think that the idea of only coaching one-to-one, whilst it is valuable and in certain circumstances with certain people, is absolutely the right thing. There is a certain magic that happens in a group. Even a small group, and depending on how it's run, a large group or a small group, the point is you're with others and there's a magic, a frisson that kind of happens as a result. I'm always really excited when I'm in group programs, and that's a format that is really close to my heart to run as well.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, how did we meet? A group program.
Yes, of course we did. Yeah, I mean, that was powerful.
Yeah, a super powerful group program. I think about a lot of the guests I've had on the show. They're from different group programs, and that's who has stayed more closely aligned with the work that I'm doing, is through different programs, community. I don't think none of us are meant to do this alone.
No. I mean, it's so fun meeting new people and collaborating. It's one of the things I read this recently, that when the editors first looked at Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, they basically edited out all references to the universe, to spirit, because they didn't think that it would be acceptable. People wouldn't want to read it. There's judgment for you when it comes to the spiritual suppression and the witch wound, as some people call it, this idea that we will be persecuted for having these sorts of beliefs and practicing in this way. They edited a lot of it out. And my understanding is that more recently, they've gone back to some of the original writing and allowed a lot more of that through. When they talked about the mastermind, when you edit out intuition and source energy, it's just about being in a room with great people and a hive mind, in that, you know, when more minds are better. When you dial in the idea of intuition and spirit, it's the idea that we are raising our collective vibration and getting intuitive hits that are pure spirit, that wouldn't exist if we just sit on our own, not able to raise our vibrations. It's really spiritual being in these groups.
I would wholeheartedly agree. What does it mean to you when you think about when you're working and you're getting an intuitive hit? What does that look like coming from that more business perspective and that blend of what you know today? How does that show up in practicality?
Well, I used to think that getting good ideas meant working harder. If I wanted to get a good idea, I would work at it, get the paper out, start writing things. Whatever comes to my mind is I would do it in order to generate new ideas. But I soon realized that the more space I give myself, and I'm able to, I walk in the forest nearly every day, and increasingly I'm building more and more chunks of time where I'm doing mindfulness stuff. I'm starting a pottery class this week. I'm really excited, but I go and do yoga, or I ride my bike. And previously, and I still have a tendency to want to do this, but I would want to work harder. I need new ideas. I need to generate more revenue. I need new clients. I need to put more hours in. What else can I do? Would have been my previous question. Now it's, what space can I provide for great ideas to drop in? Those ideas will be ones that I can deploy with minimal effort because they flow through me. Not saying that I don't need to sit at my computer and write the thing, build the thing, do the thing eventually, but it's let it flow through and the work gets easy. This is what I believe. And this is how, when I use messaging around how to build your business with ease, or how to craft authentic messaging with ease, what I'm saying there is it's easy when you allow the ideas to flow through and you co-create with someone, which is how I like to work, or you just receive and allow rather than push and effort. I'm not speaking about this from a place of someone that finds this easy. Just anyone that's going, yeah, that sounds great, but it's not natural for me. I'm a type A. I've always been really driven, always achievement driven. I'm having to learn this, but I'm dialing into my business. And now I'm at a point where I'm able to teach it to others. Every time I come back into where I used to be, I remember how things work best, which led me to signing up for this pottery class, because I was like, you know what? I can feel myself being drawn into wanting to really go for it. Don't get me wrong. I would love some amazing magic to drop in. Of course I would. But at the same time, I also know that pushing, striving, efforting is not going to get me there. And actually doing something completely the contrast and going off for 3 hours on Wednesday and spinning on a pottery wheel, I better take some paper with me, because I'll be in the middle of that class and I'll be like, oh my God, I've just had an amazing idea. And actually what I do, I probably don't need paper. I do little voice notes to myself on my phone, and I'll walk through the forest and the answer to a question will drop in, and I'll be like, quick, record it on your phone. I need to write an article about this. I need to go live and talk about that. I need to add this to my group program. It just comes through. It's available to all of us when we give ourselves the space and the grace to allow ease and flow rather than efforting and proving.
I love how you are allowing to receive that whole feminine energy, connecting yourself with the creativity. I think there's a lot of people who have that goal orientated push, because all that masculine energy, but also setting yourself up with, I'm going to bring my phone and tape myself. I love the fact that you're bringing in the pottery. Wow, that's been on my list. And I've been getting those type of downloads as well, to bring in more of that, allow more space for it to be received versus that push, push, push. But man, that's a really uncomfortable feeling to allow. And
You mean to do less.
to
And so it
do
feels like you're
less.
doing,
Yes.
so for many of us, it's like doing nothing. How can I
Yeah.
expand my business grow when I'm doing nothing? It's not about doing nothing. It's about allowing things to be easy for a change. I got to a point in my podcast where this isn't easy. I'm starting to feel like I'm not going to be able to keep up and sustain my podcast. I asked myself a question, what would make this easy for you? I realized I'm walking through the woods every morning, and very frequently I'll get a great idea. Oh, really feel it flowing through me. I really need to talk about this particular topic. I would pick up my phone and I would go on the app that records your voice. I would literally walk through the forest talking into my phone. Oftentimes they're now my solo episodes when I'm not interviewing. Those literally are my episodes. We were talking just before we went on air about an episode that you really enjoyed recently. And I'm pretty sure that was a walking episode. You can tell because there's all the birds in the background. I don't edit them out, because people have said to me they like hearing the birds in the background. And it's an energetic thing because as I record it, it's literally flowing through me. There are no notes, there are no bullet points. It's one long dialogue that comes through. I realized that the energy is very powerful and palpable. If I made a few notes and came home and said I'd record it later or next week, it's not going to have that deep resonance, because it's truly like spirit, almost like coming through a higher power that's just telling me this is what you need to say. It just flows through. We've all been there. We've all had those moments when we might be coaching a client and they ask us something, and later you reflect and think, how did I know the answer to that? Because that was a question that was a little bit outside of what I normally teach or talk about. But when they asked it, I was in that moment and wow, it just flowed through me. And that client's thank you, that was just perfect. It's exactly what I needed to hear. You're like, I had no idea I even had that in me. It feels amazing. That's what we're talking about when we talk about ease and energy. It's where we allow, that's receiving and allowing. That's it. And we're all doing it more than we realize. When we start recognizing it and going, that was me receiving, then we're open to doing more, right?
Yes. Yes. You were walking in the forest, and that ease of what you're sharing on that podcast episode, you can feel the energy difference. There is a really big shift. And I think what I used to call it, what I call it more when I'm in the corporate environment, is you're in the zone, you're in that creative zone, and you're writing on stickies and you're doing things, and it just comes off. As we move into doing the podcast with these solo episodes, I refer to it as it feels so connected with nature and the universe. It's channeled energy that is directly coming through you. You hear about it in books. You hear where they'll say somebody got so inspired over the weekend, they wrote this bestseller book. They talk about Eat, Love, Pray author. She talks about it with one of her books, The Something Magic. She talks about how she'll get an idea for a book. And the difference is when she goes back to this idea is being planted in multiple people, and the ones who sit with it and develop it out is what comes through to the universe.
It's a bit like a hive mind thing. The ideas are coming through at multiple places on the planet. It's up to you to birth that and bring that into 3D reality, which is what we talk about. The field is like all ideas in existence. We need to channel that energy into bringing them into our reality, which is why we're all powerful creators.
Yes.
Being a powerful creator relies on us allowing that to happen and taking action. It's that beautiful blend between divine masculine and divine feminine. When we're out of alignment, for me, that's been very much when I've been out of alignment with my message, when I haven't been showing up authentically, we find that things are not unfolding in the way that we wish them to create, which is why I pivoted my business from being about accountability and productivity into being about soul messaging. And I'd realized that I'd been in me all the time because, of course, 20 years in advertising, media and marketing, I was deeply into the idea of how brands grow and brand strategies, but just hadn't realized how aligned it was until I had this realization about authenticity, spirit, and sustainability. All of that came together, which, you know, you talk about this download, that was brand epics for me. I sat there one day and I was like, how is it that I've just done that? How did it happen for that client? I just sketched it out, gave it a name, trademarked it, and now I teach it all the time. I didn't have to sit there and go, you need to come up with a process, sit there until you've done it. It was just like I had a desire. It was in my vortex that I really wanted to create a process that I could explain and I could take people through, then waited and it dropped in. That's what oftentimes happens for a lot of us. We desire it. We know it is for us because we desire it. It's about consistently taking action with ease, with joy, and then boom, it drops in. We get the idea. And in fact, it literally just happened, the night before. I'm writing a masterclass at the moment. I want to share messaging magic, and I want everybody to be able to attract their soul clients. I want to teach more about messaging. I need to create a masterclass that I can share. Actually, writing the masterclass structurally became doing. I kept sitting in front of my computer and I was like, it's not flowing in the way I want it to. It's how do I make this more powerful? How do I get my message across in a better way? And didn't crack it. I probably must have sat 3-4 times on different days. I was literally brushing my teeth, going to bed. This idea, like in the shower, I was literally there brushing my teeth, really tired. And it's literally when I was like, oh, I know how I need to structure it. I had to drop my toothbrush, go into my office, get a piece of paper. I need to capture this before the download goes. Because one of the things, particularly for me, is I get this audio, it just comes through, It will be gone really fast. I won't be able to retain it unless I capture it. Here I am at midnight, scribbling this structure out, and went to bed. What took me 5 minutes to sketch out, I've been trying to do for 2 weeks on and off at my desk. I just needed it to come through rather than effort. I'm really excited now. I've got the skeleton for how this framework of this masterclass that I know now is going to land the message. People are going to get what they need from it. So yeah, that's literally just happened, but it happens all the time to all of us.
Yeah. And being able to stop and pause again and allow it, capturing it, because it does come and go, and sometimes it never comes back. These ideas. My question is, how, when you come from the spiritual perspective, and there's a lot of us who have the spiritual backgrounds and the business backgrounds, right? And we're trying to blend it together. And this messaging that you're talking about, one of the things I have found where I've seen not only myself struggle with it, but also others, is that you need to have this title of what you are. I'm trying to blend the wording that's going to not alienate some of the people who I know are out there in the business world that are aligned, being able to put out your bio that I read, how you're able to break through without having to necessarily say your mission is to champion courageous women to break the mold with their individuality and express their uniqueness in business. You know, nowhere in there do you say, I do healing. I'm also this spiritual pranic healer. That helps you. But yet that energy of those words comes through what you're saying.
Thank you. The reality is that it is a blend of written or verbal energetics with energy intention. Sometimes I think that we forget that words, everything in the field, we're all connected. When you write a piece of copy that's really from your heart and really expressing what is important to you, it will be met with understanding. I think too often we're looking for swipe filey, copycat style phraseology that might look great on paper because it belongs to somebody else. When we take it for ourselves, the lack of authenticity and the lack of energetics behind it can mean it can fall a bit flat. We're finding that people aren't engaging or getting very interested in what we're doing. We're not having those important conversations. Remembering as well that vanity metrics aren't the only thing or even anything that we need to focus on primarily in our business. Something I learned was that your Instagram, a lot of us really love Instagram. We want to be very successful and grow on Instagram. The number of 6- and 7-figure coaches that I know personally who have small Instagram followings, but thriving businesses, and they're able to connect without having to count the number of likes. They're able to bring people into direct conversations, onto discovery calls, into different ways of introducing their work, being on podcasts as a guest, having your own podcast. There are so many different ways now that we are connecting with people. It's not all about that one bio, although I do teach and love a great, clear, authentic bio in Instagram and everywhere else. But oftentimes it's because it gives us the confidence, the way we feel so much better when we can define it. We can show up on a podcast or wherever, and when somebody says, "Hey, what do?" You can go, "Oh, great. Yeah, I help spiritual, soulful entrepreneurs to create authentic messaging so they can attract their soul aligned clients. That's what I do." That only rolls off my tongue because I've done it many times. I don't say it the same anytime. We all need to really know why we're here and what it is we do. Have other people get that really fast, because not everybody's going to listen to that 3-minute explanation. People will be like, okay, they seem really nice, but they don't seem to have a level of confidence that's giving me the trust that I want to take this conversation forward and consider them to be my coach or look into working with them as a service provider.
That's a really key thing, is that confidence and how it shows up within themselves, so that you're able to then lean into trusting that they're going to help really guide you to where you want to go.
Yes, I'll tell you a couple of other things that I teach my clients that will be incredibly helpful for anybody that wants to make a big leap forward in that aspect. Additionally to what I've just said, I would also add that you should create a framework, something that gives you real authority and credibility, that allows you to have ownership of a method, framework, system that others can easily understand how they will get the results from that. There's a lot of conversations about consumer trust and how spending behaviors are going to change. And the coaching industry isn't going to be immune to this changing trend. Those coaches who are going to not just survive, but thrive through what could be a recession will be those that can create that known trust, that are going to have messaging that enables people to have the confidence to part with their hard-earned money to create the change that they desire. Having a proven framework, having really clear mission, really well articulated and passionate messaging that calls to their desires, not just their struggles, are going to differentiate you from those others. It doesn't matter whether there are a million transformational coaches. They're going to want to resonate with what you're saying, not just your title.
The whole difference between your messaging with desires versus struggles. That's such a powerful nugget. Really focusing on their desires versus the struggles. I think that really is unique in your offering from what I see in a lot of messaging. There's a lot of focused in coaching programs on the struggle. Not that you don't need to understand what they're struggling with, helping to create this vision of where they want to go, this dream that somebody has inside of them, and connecting in with those desires to bring it forth so that it can birth through them. They can be their authentic self. They can recreate or up level where they are to find that alignment.
That was my experience when I described earlier about working with misaligned clients who were struggling to get the results. I was losing boundaries and trying to overprove to get them there, because I was thinking, if they're not going to do the work, maybe I can help them more, which is never the right solution as a coach or a consultant, unless that's specifically what's required. When I went through that burnout period and came back with a very different perspective on it, I wrote a manifesto. My manifesto, which was to manifest the business in flow and ease, had a number of points of things that I wasn't going to accept in myself and my business, and those things I did want. One of them was about not working with clients that were misaligned, and instead seeing my clients as already having achieved what they wanted. They are whole, they are perfect, and it's just about bringing it into reality. Their desired outcome already exists. When I started to speak to that in my messaging, I saw a massive difference between those people that wished to engage with me. It was calling in people that would embrace the process, were ready for change, were going to get the results, were going to be a great fit for what the work that I was doing, because I was calling to those people ready, rather than calling to people stuck in a sort of downward spiral of struggle, who want change but weren't quite ready at that point to get the change. In full integrity as a coach, you don't want to be taking money or working with people who are not going to do the work and get the results. It enables you to show up much more in your power and say, I have this program that's going to be life-changing, but your part in the deal is to show up and do the work, and to get the results. There's all of this stuff that has to happen, whatever that is, whatever kind of coaching you do. I think when you call to that, those people who are ready go, yes, me, I'm going to do the work. I'm ready for the change. I'm a heck yes client. That heck yes energy is the energy you attract when you talk to their desires.
That shows up in their own resistance, how resilient, their own resistance to making the change within themselves. When you're talking to the people who want the change, but they're going in the different spiral, those stepping up, because resistance looks a little different of what I've experienced than what I might think resistance looks like. Have you seen that? And how does that look for the difference in some of the clients with the resistance? They had a bad week versus not really stepping forward. So people can ask themselves that, am I resisting making certain changes, or did I just have an off week?
Life isn't a straight line that we're up and down, and accepting that and going with those natural rhythms is going to make life a lot easier if you just accept it, rather than beat yourself up over, I've not got a lot done this week, I've felt low, or I haven't felt energized, for example. I think that there is a big difference between people who are feeling resistance and need a coach to help them see that, to help them move through it, and those people who identify with that resistance and are really entrenched in staying the same. Fortunately, in our industry, most people are really keen to get the change, and they want to put that in as a coach. We get that blessed opportunity to help people make those changes in their lives. What a great job, right? To see people get revenue in their business, or make big changes in their relationships or their health, and all the great ways in which coaches help. I think that instinctively, whether somebody is a good fit to work with you. I also believe in a business, we're able to help those people who might not be a great fit now, but could be in the future. That could be about having different levels of offers. I work in a high ticket way with my one-to-ones, and I have a high ticket group coaching program. I help my clients to create that, because I do believe it's a really, really powerful way to build your business, but also serve your clients. That doesn't mean that you can't create smaller courses or small containers or memberships. There are other ways of creating kind of the right container that's going to help somebody make those earlier shifts. Maybe what they really need to do is watch your masterclass, or just enjoy your free content, read your articles, listen to your podcast. There's so many ways that we can show up and provide great value for people who really want the change, but aren't ready to invest at that level when they're not ready to do the work.
That is really, really powerful, Joanna. If people are feeling themselves aligned to you, or they want to go connect with you, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm jo.ingram. You can find me and connect with me via my podcast, which is called Goals with Soul, which is on all of the platforms that you would normally listen to podcasts. I'm also offering free magic messaging assessments. If you want my eyes on your messaging, want me to wander through your website and give you some pointers about some things that you can do easily to improve your messaging, you can grab hold of my link, and you can find that via my link tree on Instagram, or just send me a DM and I'm happy to share it with you.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a really powerful free gift. Thank you for that offer for people. Having that expertise with knowing somebody who's building a business and it's based upon their whole authentic them, spiritually based, that's super powerful. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here and sharing so much wisdom.
It's been my absolute pleasure, Debbie. Thank you for inviting me.
If you enjoyed this Light Up Your Worth episode, be sure to share with a soulful friend who needs to hear this message. Thanks so much for listening and being part of the Light Up Your Worth community. My heart is full of gratitude for you. You are my inspiration to shine the light of spiritual, heart-centered women. Now go out there and shine your own light, sending you sunshine. If you enjoyed this Light Up Your Worth episode, be sure to share with a soulful friend who needs to hear this message. Thanks so much for listening and being part of the Light Up Your Worth community. My heart is full of gratitude for you. You are my inspiration to shine the light of spiritual, heart-centered women. Now go out there and shine your own light, sending you sunshine.